This episode is brought to you by Cube Gallery, a progressive art space in Cebu, Philippines, providing network and exhibit opportunities for contemporary artists with whom they work closely with and promote beyond the local reach. This month, Cube Gallery is pleased to present new works by Impressionist artist Jose Marie Picornell. This is Picornell's fourth one-man show since the dawn of his career in the 1960s. Jose Marie has succeeded in making his mark in the Philippine art scene without any formal training. However, he was fortunate to have been mentored by architect Pio Bonilla as an adolescent, and he was already dabbling with watercolors when the architect, who considered Picornell a natural-born artist, introduced him to painting with oil. Picornell is known to create visually stimulating bodies of work that fuses old Cebu, Philippines with the present. This exhibition features 14 artworks by Picornell of old colonial houses, street corners, downtown scenes, and different snippets of city life in Cebu. It aims to present the viewers with how much has changed over the years and what has remained the same. For more information or to request a catalog, contact Pia at 0918-807-4175. This episode is also brought to you by A Space. In need of a co-working space in the heart of Cebu? Be a part of the indie co-working project of A Space Philippines. I used to co-work in A Space, and I eventually started renting a space of my own. But at the time when I was working in A Space, it was a really good environment. I met a bunch of like-minded people, enjoyed going to a few of the events. A-Space is hosting events all the time, so it's a good place to mingle, to discover something new, and of course, do work. So A-Space Cebu is located at the Creative Boutique Hub of Crossroads, Manila, Governor M. Cuenco Avenue, Cebu City. You can call 032-888-7656 or visit aspace.work or follow them on Facebook, Aspace Cebu, or on Instagram, ASpacePH. Links in the description. Okay, let's get to the show. Welcome to 032 Conversations, the podcast where we talk to creatives, see how they live, and how they do their work. I'm your host, Carlo Villarica. Pit Senor, folks. I'm recording this on the Monday of Sinulog. It's like the perfect Monday after Sinulog. Everything seems so slow. It's gray and raining outside, and if you just happen to be staying home from work, not having to go out into the city, it must be a really good day. Like, it's like a Netflix and chill day. So how was your Sinulog? My Sinulog actually, in my mind, started on Saturday. So I had an early morning exercise bike ride. And because I wanted to get that out there because I still haven't really felt like, I've been able to push myself since the Christmas break. So did the early bike ride on Saturday. And then in the evening was a long night for me. Mark Cortes, he's still here in Cebu. He's our vocalist in our band Rescue Hero. I did a podcast episode with him. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. Anyway, he's still here. So we played probably our last gig in this particular visit. We played our last gig in Mr. Griddle and as Rescue Hero. And it was so much fun. And after the gig, we just hung out. We watched the show, had a few more beers. Well, I had a few more beers. He doesn't drink. And I had more than I usually did. I mean, it wasn't much, nothing crazy. But considering that I don't drink that much at all anymore, I felt it. I felt it the next day. So on Sunday, I just didn't feel right, I had a cold. I was tired. So considering that Saturday, I woke up early, had that strenuous bike ride, and then slept late. Had a long night by my standards. I wasn't hungover, but I was definitely not 100%. Luckily, we didn't plan anything for Sinulog. Stayed home, had lunch with family, chilled with family. We even slept on the couch, just relaxing. That was the entire day. And during the evening, we visited the new Vienna Cafe House in Bonifacio District. right before it got crazy, right before the party started really happening. So we had dinner there on Steph's side of the family. It was good, man. Super chill sinulog. I suspect my sinulogs will be very chill moving forward. It's been chill like the past few years, let's be honest. So that's what it's going to be. And how about maybe when the kids are old enough that they don't want to be carried when they get tired or anything, then maybe we'll definitely do that. Steph loves Sinulog. The kids love Sinulog. We keep playing like Sinulog songs in the car. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Quick announcement. Zerothreetwo, we finally released the Zerothreetwo cycling jersey. I'm calling it the Trans Central. It's a tribute to the iconic Cebu Trans Central Highway. And if you're a cyclist from Cebu, you've most likely climbed up this road, at the very least from JY to Marco Polo, and then maybe from Marco Polo you reached Willie's, and if you were feeling adventurous, you went all the way up to Buak, and if you had the fitness, you could even go all the way down to Sirao, Cantipla, and then maybe even Balamban. I've never done the Balamban route, but anyway, that's the whole Cebu Trans Central Highway. And I got the idea to do this when a few months ago we had a design intern. He submitted studies for the 032 Conversations podcast thumbnail. It's the pink one. And he that background, that pinkish, purplish background was from a topographic map of Cebu. Like a version of the topographic map. So that was one of the pegs that he presented. And so I decided I'd like to one day do a cycling jersey. So I thought of him right away when I thought about doing the cycling jersey, and I gave him the assignment of coming up with a design for the Cebu Trans Central Highway using the topographic map, and it came out really great. So thank you, Frank Joseph Borses, for the design. It's available at the Assembly online. Head over to assembly.032.com and just look for the Trans Central cycling jersey. I'll link to it in the show notes. If you get it before Feb, it's at a discounted price, but after that, it's just going to jump up in price. So in this episode, we interviewed Myka Arnado. She's a graphic designer who has done a lot of work. Notably, she's worked with brands like Nike, Uniqlo, and Revere. I felt compelled to talk to her after she did like a talk in the Tropical Futures Forum, and I wanted to reach out to her and talk to her because it was really interesting. I liked her story. I liked where she was going. And it's this podcast is all about learning to me. You know, for me, it's about learning. It's about getting some knowledge from the guest and hoping that they are able to share that knowledge to other people. And Myka was super generous with that knowledge. Myka, thank you for doing the podcast. I really enjoyed this interview. And also notably, but it's not in the podcast, I wasn't able to discuss this with her. She used to play in a high school band. When I was in high school and she was in high school, there was a band called Dysmenoria. We talked about it in the Carla Adlawan podcast episode, and they were a really well-known band back in my band back in my day. So if this is your first time to listen, and before we get to the interview, if this is your first time to listen to 032 Conversations, please subscribe. New episode every Tuesday. Let's get to that interview.
Yeah, I mean, the audio was not great.
It was fine, actually. But yes.
Yeah, okay, so, wait, first of all, so you just came from Manila?
Yes. So the entire thing about it. I was invited to participate in this thing called the Music Makers Hack Lab. It was sponsored more like part of the program by Wasak Festival, Festival of the Recently Possible. So it's also sponsored by the Goethe Institute. I don't know how to pronounce it. I probably butchered that. It's a German government agency. So there were a lot of international participants too. So the Hack Lab itself was a way to gather people from different disciplines, me being from design, but they brought me in to do visuals. There were a lot of musicians, sound artists, there were programmers, circuit benders. So the idea was to bring all these people with different disciplines and at the end have them perform, make something and perform together using whatever
Like
inputting.
on stage?
On stage, yes.
Oh, okay.
It was crazy because I was like, I'm a graphic designer. What am I going to do in this like whole lot?
But you know,
Yeah.
well, did you have to go on stage?
Ish. It's not a literal stage, but we
Okay.
did perform in the sense that we had something on. So as probably you could figure out by now, it's really more on the experimental side of the art spectrum. So we had a lot of people doing circuit bending. So we had Rambo, I'm name dropping you right now. So he made a musical instrument, if you can call it that, from a telephone.
Is that what you mean by circuit bending?
Yes. You mess around with electronics to make it into something that's not meant
really?
for...
Lingawan, no?
Yes. So these were really amazing tinkerers, makers. And I came in to do visuals because everyone was more on the music and programming and tech side. So for the performance aspect to have a visual aspect, I was brought in. So I did visuals for 2 of the groups. There were a total of 11 of us, and it ended up with a performance, 4 performances from all of us in the 8th day, was it? By 1.5 weeks. Yes.
So you were there for like 8 days.
Yes. It was quite a lot. It's like, as our moderator put it, it's like speed dating, but you have to have something at the end.
So they just invited you.
Yes, because besides doing graphic design, I also do some new media explorations. I wouldn't even call it art because I have very specific notions of art, and yet what I do tend to end up in exhibits. And the person who invited me, that was Merv from Green Papaya Projects, was a collaborator in Viva XCon, the Biennial, however you pronounce it, Bienniale. That one, they saw my work over there. We did some projection mapping, new media art, and they thought what I do would be a fit in the Music Makers Hack Lab. So that's how it came to be.
Really? Well,
yes, it's really abstract at the moment. If you don't see, I can actually show you after because right
sige.
now, yes.
So you have like a video or something? Is any of it
Yes,
online?
all of it is online actually.
Oh,
right
great.
now,
So
they
I'll
already
ask-
uploaded them.
I'll ask for the link so people can look at it.
Oh my lord! But okay, these are. A word of warning: this is really on the experimental, conceptual bit of art, and on that spectrum, it's really a bit. Watch it with an open mind, please. Yes,
Well,
and with your
don't apologize.
apologies. No, but you'll understand when you say it, and be sure to have your volume down because you're gonna hurt your ears. Because we have one guy playing with feedback, so he's like just making feedback the entire time, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so going back to like graphic design and that thing.
Yes.
So we're more or less kabatch, right?
Yes.
Like I think you're like a year younger. You're my sister's
There's
batchmate, diba?
yes.
But
Small world.
yeah, I know. Well, you know, it's Cebu.
It's Cebu. Everyone knows each
yeah.
other. Yes.
But I realized that I missed the boat on graphic design.
Did you? How so?
Like I just never got into it. No? And then I was thinking, a lot of my batchmates also, and I wonder if that's true also for you.
Yes.
A lot of them also did not get into.
The
It's not
design
like
courses.
now, ba? Yeah, it's not like now.
Yes.
More, you know, it's a lot of people.
Yeah,
are
everyone's
doing
doing, and not to say everyone, but a lot of creatives are at least doing a bit of graphic design on the side or doing it full time. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
like I mean, even me, I was forced to learn a little bit. So I mean, I use
Yeah,
like
you have
Canva
to,
or something.
right? You have to at this point.
Yeah, diba?
Yes.
But like I missed the boat. A lot of my classmates missed the boat, and the reason was not many people were doing it. Period, diba?
I believe so. Yeah, not as much as now.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as many as now.
So how did you get
Okay.
into it?
Okay, since we have the luxury of time, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go into detail.
Yeah, I'll sip my coffee.
Yay! Yes. Sit back and relax. So our first personal computer had Microsoft paint on it, of course.
Oh yeah,
right?
I use
so,
that.
like everyone, they play the hell out of that, and that's even before the internet. So spend a lot of time on Microsoft Paint. Then we realized you could edit pictures in Microsoft Word, and then my mom bought a laptop which had Photoshop in it. And
what year was this?
Exactly.
This must have been a really...
Yeah, it was around 99, 2000-ish.
Photoshop was already around that time.
Yeah, I was lucky to actually get my hands on Photoshop that early. So I really just played around with it. I didn't even think it was like a viable career option. It was just something I could do because at that point, it was also drawing traditional stuff. And I realized when I do digital stuff, I don't have to like spend on paper, materials. And
yeah, because I don't know about you, like at least a lot of like going back to my batchmates, there were a lot of guys who drew.
Yes.
Diba?
Yes, there's so many good artists, and I felt like I wasn't one of them. So there was a joke that goes that you get into design because you're not a very good artist, but that's a horrible thing to say. But that's kind of reality for me because I feel like in terms of, let's say, illustration, I'm not very good at it, but in other aspects, I think I can make bawi. So when I started playing around with my mom's Photoshop and, started making websites for, on Notepad, because that's how we learned HTML, right? Because we used to download websites and read the code off the websites you downloaded.
Who are you talking about?
I think a lot of people do that. Yes. What?
I did not know.
I don't remember doing this.
I didn't do that at all.
But anyway, that's how I spent a lot of my high school time, just downloading websites, reading the code, trying to mix websites and the accompanying graphics for that. And at that point, the Deftones were like super big. That was the era of the Around the Fur and White Pony.
Yeah,
of course,
you
remember, you were huge. You were everything. There's everything to me. And they had this call out for, say, anyone out there have art or designs or anything that's Deftones related? So I sent my stuff in, and it won. Yeah.
In 1999?
I was 15 then, so I forgot. I'm not sure what year that was. I was third year. Wait.
They asked for designs. You put something. You submitted something, and then you won.
Yes.
They asked designs for what?
For anything Deftones related. So like.
Did they use it?
No.
They didn't use it.
But not the catch, but the nice part of that story is that I got a signed CD. So this was before,
so cool.
It's so cool, right? Because imagine sending someone from a very far away country like a signed CD, and this was through the regular post office. So,
I think for some context, right now magud na murag.
It's so easy to get stuff through the mail.
I wouldn't say it's easy, but like you get a sense of, let's say there's an artist that you like, and you can follow them on Instagram,
exactly.
And then you could right away get a sense
you
of
can
like
app them.
Yeah, you can kind of message them. But you get a sense that they're right next to you,
exactly.
Because
it's
they're
so
on your
close,
phone.
yes.
But back then,
oh my God, it was so hard. You had to like go to their websites manually to check updates every day.
No, but I also totally felt like a different species. You get what I'm saying? Like, they did not, at least to me, they did not seem like real people.
Yes, because they were so distant.
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube didn't exist back then. Streaming music didn't exist back then. If you wanted to know more about them, you had to go to the nearest bookstore and look for whatever kind of magazine that featured Deftones in it.
Yeah, and you got like a signed CD. It's so
right?
cool.
And I got a signed CD. And here's the thing. I never opened it because it came in a plastic thing. I never opened it hoping it would preserve the germs of like Chino Moreno and everything. I'm that big a fan. But to this day, it's one of my most precious possessions.
Really? Did you open it?
Never opened it.
Really?
Never, ever opened it. Yeah.
How do you know it's signed?
I mean, it's plastic. It's inside plastic.
Okay.
So yeah, I can show you one time. It's a signed copy of Adrenaline, which
Adrenaline.
is Adrenaline.
I like Adrenaline.
Exactly right. Because this was.
That's the one with the shell.
It's like a thing for the ear. It's like.
Yeah,
it looks like a shell, but it's actually
really?
a squeezy thing for the ear.
That. Okay.
Yes.
I thought it was a shell the whole time.
Right?
The white one. It's like a white colored.
The white one. And at that point, the Deftones only had 2 CDs out. So it was just either Around the Fur or Adrenaline. And hey, I got Adrenaline. Yes.
I liked adrenaline.
Yeah, that's just so cool, really.
Yeah, and then so you submitted a design. It won.
Mm-hmm.
So
how did it come to be? So at that point, we were still in high school. There was no design course in the university I was applying to. So I was applying to the Ateneo de Manila University. I really had no idea what I was going to do in college. I just took whatever seemed not so difficult. And as one of our course coordinators said, I bet you took this course because it doesn't have any math in it. And that's
what did you take?
Communications.
Communications.
So it was in AB Communications. And by the third year of college, it was when the school started offering design classes. And I felt like it was too late to shift because, that
third year now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'd have to stay behind maybe a year. So what happened was I talked to the teachers if I could sit in their classes. So they allowed me to do that. And it was also when they started bringing in more books about graphic design into the libraries. Back then, before that, there wasn't that many. They only had a lot of books from the 70s on design.
You went to the Ateneo Library?
Yes, I went through everything.
I've been in there like 3 times.
Oh my God. Hats off to you.
No, I did not enjoy
entering there. So they were bringing in books by the week. So I'd read the books they brought.
So cool, huh?
Yeah, so it was a lot of self-education in my part. But up until then, I still didn't think it was the career option because I was in AB Communication. I thought I was going into advertising. Then I had ethical issues with that. So I decided to maneuver my credits, my courses to more of a film criticism track.
What were your ethical issues with advertising? Do you still have those ethical issues?
Yes. I just I cannot reconcile selling stuff that people don't need or creating false needs.
Okay.
Yes. So I had to step away from that. Maybe it's a truth for some people that maybe it's a good thing for them. But for me personally, it's not something I want to dedicate more time to. So I ended up taking more film criticism classes because I knew I'd do well in them. Not that because I thought I'd learn much, but I knew I'd ace them. So while I was making student films, I was also making books. I was the graphic design editor of the school's literary art publication, Heights. Do you remember that?
Vaguely,
right?
I was not a very good
no, it's okay.
Ateneo student.
No, because it's a very broad and big population because you have all the other orgs. So
yeah, no, my story there is like
Yes.
I tried to join like an org,
and then
the
what
music
happened?
org, AMP.
I was in AMP too.
You're in AMP?
Yes.
Okay, wait. So I signed up and then,
Showed
then-
up once and that's it.
Not even. when they said like, okay, we're going to have the meeting, whatever. And then I just never showed up. And then that was the last
of it.
Yeah, that was the only, aside from like the dorm org.
Yes. What was it called again? The dorm org?
Sursa?
Sursa, yes.
You weren't a dormer.
I was in a dormer.
Okay.
Because my sister told me not to dorm. She was a dormer.
It's a lot of distractions.
Yes.
Denora, yeah.
Yes. So she also knows I'm not a people person. So it was the best thing. I lived with around 4 other people outside the campus. But we to digress. So we were talking about. Yes. I was a graphic design editor for Heights, so that meant we were coming up with books, like 4 books a year, and we were designing posters, everything. So that's a lot of design work on your production schedule, as well as film work. So I was still unsure what I was going to do.
Was this like your first real design work?
It's not real in the sense it's a student publication, but on the side, I was also doing design work for furniture exporters in Cebu.
Okay.
Yeah, because as some might not know, Cebu was like the place to get your furniture in the world. It's like
There's like a boom.
Yeah, right? The furniture export boom in the 90s to early 2000s, before the financial downturn of 2008. So we had all these exporters who would exhibit in Milan, and they would need materials. So once a tita tells other titas, like,
I
I know someone who can make you a brochure.
It's like a relative.
Exactly, right? So that's how I really got my work at that point in college, because one tita would tell another tita, hey,
Are we getting paid for this?
yes, this is actual work. So I was doing a lot of, that's why I didn't do well academically in college, because I was doing so many things and I wasn't focusing on, what I should be doing and studying. So I was designing these brochures, these catalogs for furniture makers, and then designing books for the student publication, and then making student films. So by the time I graduated, I also coincidentally got a scholarship to study in Tokyo. And it was not for design. It was for media studies. So
What is that?
Since communication is like the umbrella, so we can study, so media studies falls under communication. So you really look into the implications of how we use media and how it influences society. So it's more on the sociology aspect of how you approach.
Wow, imagine that now.
Imagine that now. That was like the baby internet, but now we have all this crap happening, right? But it was pretty tame back in the 2005s-ish. So I got to study that then. A very nice story to how I partially financed my study in Tokyo was that even though I got a scholarship, most scholarships are never full. So you really have to pay for yourself in some aspects. So I managed to work for 2 months, make 2 huge catalogs for a furniture maker. And what I earned there, I managed to pay for,
like living expenses.
The shall we say, the arrangement was that they would send me to Japan and they would bring someone from Japan to the Ateneo. And I had to pay for her tuition because they covered for my tuition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I covered for her. Or him. I'm just assuming it's a her.
I'm going to assume it's much cheaper.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's why it's done like that.
Yeah.
Because imagine if I had to pay my own tuition in Japanese value. So that would be impossible, right? So there, because of some early graphic design work, I was able to pay for some bit of my studies in Japan. And upon getting back to Cebu, it just naturally came to be that I took on more freelance graphic design work because there's always seems to be a demand. So there.
You mentioned earlier ba nga murag, I forget now what context it was, but you were making
yes.
bawi.
Yes, making bawi from
like kanang you weren't good at illustration.
Oh, yes.
There it was, yeah. So you weren't good at illustration.
illustration.
And then so you made bawi in other ways. What do you mean? Like,
interesting. In this, one of my goals as a young graphic designer is that I'd see these posters that were all text and they looked amazing. These are all words and yet it's so designy. How does that work? So that was the goal. How do you make all these visual elements, text, images, shapes, what have you, and make it effective, convey a message, have someone act on it? So unlike illustration that it's just focused on making figurative expressions and drawings, right? You use other, shall we say, elements to communicate. So, like say for text, it requires a different skill set because you say you do typography. It's not the same way as you would do illustration. So I made bawi in typography versus because I'm not so good at illustration. So that's how I carved my niche, at least.
Yeah, like I think, so there's something there in your Instagram, nga murag, or somewhere in one of your works where I think you gave yourself a challenge to come up with these designs, and then you just chose like two fonts.
Okay. Shall I talk about that?
Sure.
Let's go.
So maybe expound a little bit on
of course.
that. So just to give the listener an idea, kanang you were using. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, I can actually relay it now. The parameters of that.
Go again.
Yes. Okay. So I think it's around 2010 or 2009-ish, thereabouts. This guy called Mark Weaver did a personal design exercise called Make Something Cool Every Day. It was when people still uploaded their stuff on Flickr and Tumblr. So I got inspired by this. So I wanted to make my own. What Mark Weaver did, he made collages, digital collages. So I thought, I want to make designs every day too, but collages are a bit time consuming for me because you have to look for material and put it together. So I thought if I narrowed down the parameters of what I'm going to do every day for my Make Something Every Day, it would be easier for me time wise. For some people, it might be harder because you feel limited to what you can use. But my parameters was it has to be a song title. It has to be black and white. It has to just use the type family universe, and that's it. So it really started with really basic typography exercises, but you can see I started this like 2009. Like 2019. I still haven't finished it. The ideal thing would be you finish an entire year, right? But I always put it off. Something happens in real life.
But you have been like consistently adding to that
it.
collection.
Yes. So it's really interesting.
In the past 9 years?
9 years, yes. So it's like a time capsule. So you can tell like, oh, this must be like from 1 year because the style is very different from the following year. So it's like the way to track how I've evolved as a designer. So that's a very interesting thing.
It's interesting na, Murag, I noticed good nga, once you give yourself parameters, in any medium, in many ways, it becomes easier. It doesn't become...
Oh, yes.
Because when you have this, like...
So many choices.
Yeah, this multitude of choices. It's really paralyzing ba?
Exactly. That was what I was faced with when I was trying to start. Because before I set my parameters, I thought, what font do I use? What topic? What aesthetic? Just deciding on what you want to do takes like an hour, for me at least. So deciding on what I should be doing just made everything very clear and very fast.
Okay, well, so one of the reasons why I thought it would be good to interview you is because you did your talk in Tropical Futures Forum.
Yes.
No? And I thought it was really good. So you were talking about like Create Cebu, about like what you guys were doing, but more than just showing the work, you gave some sort of...
insights.
Yeah, some insights. But you very discreetly mentioned that you also did work for Nike and Revere. And then most recently also Uniqlo.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
I feel like I'm interested to know, like, how did, like, let's say Nike, and then we can just work our way down.
Okay.
No? So how did Nike happen?
Exactly. That's really how it starts, right? This is not the answer anyone would want to hear because they found me online. I just got a message request from someone saying, hey, we think your style would fit the project we're doing for Nike. Do you want to learn more about it?
This is like a totally random person.
Totally random person. I didn't know this person. I didn't follow them back. I was like, yeah, sure, Nike. Yeah, sure. Are you selling me something? Yeah, sure, bro. But
any common friends?
But I had to research, right, before I said yes. So I looked it up. This person was part of this group design agency called Royal Club Shanghai. They are a husband and wife duo of designers. They're both French, but they're based in Shanghai. And when you look through their feed, they apparently have had a lot of collaborations with other artists for Nike. So that was a green flag. I mean, if people were actually just commenting and saying, thank you for collaborating with us, so they must be the real thing. So, of course, I said, yes, send me more details. And they sent me the brief, and it was a pitch back. They asked me for 3 ideas to pitch back to them. And normally, I wouldn't really do speculative work because that's already work without pay.
Yeah, I was going to say, so
exactly.
you're going to spend some time.
Exactly,
and
right?
Then
and what if it doesn't work
question
out?
Mark, like they may not like it.
Exactly. So at that point, I thought, even if this is speculative work and if I don't get it, at least I tried. And if it does work out, then imagine that. Imagine that I'd actually be working for Nike. So I pitched back and I got word and they told me, hey, they really liked your concept. You got it. And at that point I realized, oh my God, I was pitching back against other people. Holy crap.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I knew that right away.
I didn't know. That multiplied the pressure like 100 times. I didn't even know I was like competing there. So at that point, they pushed through with the concept. It worked very smoothly from there. They gave me the brief. They were very specific with what they wanted. They gave very specific details on what they wanted revised. So it went along like any other design project, only that it was Nike.
So they messaged you out
on
of
Instagram.
on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yes.
So presumably, it's an effect of just putting your personal work out there.
Exactly. On that note, you can easily tell what they meant by, we think your style would fit in with the specific project, because at that point I did a lot of checkers and pixelized type, and the branding for Nike Zoom, which is for the shoes, right? And since it was for the Shanghai Marathon, it was a really good fit.
So what did you do for Nike again?
Yes.
You did the design for the Shanghai Marathon.
Yes. So Nike was the main sponsor for the Shanghai Marathon. They had 3 designs for their Nike By Me customization booth in their flagship store. I'm not sure it was the flagship store, but one of their stores at least, where you choose a design, have it printed on a shirt. And each design was one stop along the way of the marathon. So there was the fun run, half marathon, the full marathon. This was featured on their shirts, socks, and then lanyards, stickers, stuff like that. And then they asked for 3 designs. Funnily enough, through the design process, the main designs didn't push through because they evolved into something more specific and more in line with the branding. So I ended up designing 4 things actually, because I pitched more, because I was very Magus. So I gave more designs. And thankfully, because I was Magus, they also paid for that. Yes, they also paid for that. So which is great.
That's good. That's,
exactly.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
So that's Nike. So that's like an example of putting your work out there, and you just, in this day and age,
exactly.
That's really, actually, the truth is, there's probably a lot of work that just happens like that. Diba? How about Revere?
Wait, can I add more to the Nike
Sure.
thing? Yeah. On that note, it was only around 2015, I think, that I started posting my work online publicly. It was, I limited all my posting to just Tumblr. And if you don't follow someone on Tumblr, you're practically invisible, right? You're not very, you don't show up on searches that much, etc., etc. So when I became part of this group called Beta Operations, which was a new media collective in Cebu, we do crazy things with new media and tech. I felt like I needed to be more visible to give, material for the team, give them more hype. So that's how I started posting more new media art as well as designs. So it was only then that when I started posting a lot, that I actually got some attention. So if you notice, it's only lately that, even though I've been a graphic designer for a long time, it's only been the last few years that I've been visible, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've only really been posting it online the last 4 years. If you think about it.
Exactly.
You started
I don't know.
College,
right? Yeah. So I was very shy about sharing stuff because I didn't want people judging me from my work. So but it's a really good payoff. Even if you feel embarrassed about what you post, people will think it's good. Someone will think what you do is good, and that someone might give you a job. So that's really worth taking the risk.
Yeah. And then also the reality is it's not really much of a risk. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, I suppose.
Diba?
Yes.
Kanang, like, I don't know, like, when I was in high school, I always thought, everybody's like, kanang,
Amazing.
No, well, yeah, like, but like, you have this, like, I think they call it, like, the spotlight effect, where you think people are talking about you.
Yes, but they're actually not.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit. No one cares.
Exactly. I wish I knew that when I was growing up, right?
Oh, so me also.
Right,
wow.
right.
It would have saved me a lot of,
like, Super. So if you want to move on to Revere, Revere, I believe, the way they found me was, Siamese Rat, the artist. We kept on crossing paths because he and his wife, Strawberry, they would be doing, like, say, pop-ups or, like, exhibits in 856G Gallery. And I'm also I'm still doing a lot of collaborations with 856G. So I do see them a lot. Then eventually you became Facebook friends and you start, socializing. And last year there was the Cebu Graphic Design Week exhibition, which I was part of and which Siamese Rat was part of. And he posted a picture of what I did on his Facebook where French from Revere saw the comment, and from there he messaged me, "Are you interested in making something?"
Revere's like a Davao based, no?
Yes, Davao, Davaoeño. And that's how it is. A lot of word of mouth, primarily from people who trust their contacts. Like, say, I don't know you, but if my contact thinks you're a good person to work with, then you're probably a good person to work with. So that's how that came to be.
Oh yeah, that's so important. Like, just how you treat other people.
Oh yes,
diba?
That speaks volumes.
So that's Revere.
Yes.
And then this Uniqlo, which I think at the time you did the Tropical Futures Forum, was the Uniqlo...
Not yet.
I mean, obviously you did it already.
Yes, but I didn't speak about it because it wasn't out yet.
It wasn't official yet.
It wasn't official yet. And although there was no non-disclosure agreement, you would be professional. Exactly. Be professional. Don't leak anything before the announcement. So, how that became to be, Mark Deutsch of Happy Garahe just messages me out of the blue. "Myka, did you get the email?" And I'm like, "What email?" "You'll know when you get it."
It sounds like a Mark Deutsch Facebook.
Exactly
post.
Right. Yeah, it's a brand of Mark Deutsch. Yes. So I got the email, and it's Dan Matutina of 63 the Design Studio, and he's curating this t-shirt collection for Uniqlo. And he told me, "You were selected. We would like to commission you to make a t-shirt design or artwork." So apparently how that came to be was they gathered different portfolios of artists and designers and presented them to someone, and that someone selected the ones they wanted featured. So, and again, I didn't realize I was against other people, but that went very seamlessly. I thought we'd go through many revisions like Nike, and yet here we are with Uniqlo. It was just one revision and we were good to go.
I think with them, in a way also, like, I haven't seen their marketing. I'm assuming they market it as an artist series.
It is. It's more of artist than designer.
Yeah, yes. So like, I think they probably didn't want to give too much input, if ever.
Exactly. I think so too. It's more respect for artwork than actual hovering for design revisions and stuff.
Yeah, because that's a different...
mindset, approach.
Yeah. So with the Uniqlo one, it just
became to be?
No, but like there was like you submitted work and then more or less that was it.
The idea was they asked us for a couple of studies, and here's the thing with me. I mentioned this in the Tropical Futures Forum, because when you're faced with a very big project, very high stakes project, it hurts because there's so much anxiety behind that. My voices in my head are gonna tell me, "You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make something good enough." All these horrible voices. So in order to cut that suffering short, I do the work as soon as possible. So instead of, say, we have a timeline of 1 week to come up with studies, I try to do it in the first 2 days of that 1 week so that I won't have to suffer through the whole week of all those anxious voices telling me I can't do it.
That's smart.
You're right. And it's so much better for your well-being because you don't have to panic on the last day about, coming up with something.
Yeah. And it's also like, I guess, and also that's the thing with art and design. A lot of it is very subjective sa niya. Also, sometimes the person making the decision,
doesn't know anything. Sometimes,
sometimes they don't know
sometimes it's like out of a personal preference. Like, I don't like blue, therefore I don't like your design. So there's so many stakes up there, emotional stakes as well.
Yeah, so it's like a smart, in a way, ba?
Yes.
It's really smart to like, I mean, I really believe in like
I know.
personal care. You know?
Self-care all the way.
Self-care, better.
Self-care.
That's a better term.
Yes,
Self-care.
self-care. So it was actually after the Nike project that I realized I worked better that way. Because with the Nike project, I also decided to do it like, I'm gonna take this whole weekend on just working on Nike so that I don't have to worry about it afterwards. So I'm always trying to submit as soon as possible, not to rush, of course, but if I can put things on hold, I will put things on hold so I can focus completely on doing something so that I'll be free after that and just wait for feedback.
But the Nike, the Revere, the Uniqlo, these are all
T-shirts.
all T-shirts, yeah. But like in a way, more siya like high profile.
Yes, they are, aren't they? Yeah.
Things to like work, ba high profile ish work. But you're doing a lot of work that's still like similar to what you were doing in college in that sense. Nga,
of course.
You know, it's I don't know, like I think in the Tropical Futures Forum you hinted that you were doing like
dried mangoes. Okay, so here's the take on me. I have commercial work. That's my day job. And what styles, techniques, anything I can't do in my day job, I do in my side design work. And outside of my side design work, I also do new media stuff. So for my day job, I'm the art director and graphic designer of this brand called Cebu Best. We're a food manufacturer and exporter. Not many people know, but a little of shop talk here, if you don't mind.
Sorry?
So, a bit of shop talk.
Oh, shop talk. Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Very quickly. In the 70s, our founder, Elizabeth, her family made preserved mangoes in jars. Back then, we didn't have dried mangoes in plastic. So, because she was she was majoring in chemistry, she made that into her thesis. How can we make mangoes for export? How can we make the shelf life longer? How can we make it easier to transport? So through her thesis, she was able to make the modern, quote unquote, modern dried mango recipe that allowed for export, like that.
Really? Is she like the one who discovered dried mangoes?
Not discovered.
Well, not discovered, but
like the formula that we're using now.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
What's her name?
Elizabeth Ong.
Okay.
Yeah. And they started as a freelance client for me. And it was only after like working with them for say 2 years that I found out about that story. And I was like, this is such a missed opportunity. The world needs to know about this. So one of our rebranded work was we did the packaging design of the dried mangoes to reflect a more Filipiniana, more vintage style, to reflect that, hey, we go a long way. And this was also launched through Philippine Airlines because a lot of our stuff is actually in Philippine Airlines. So a lot of the things I do is actually a back and forth with Philippine Airlines. So that's a day job, basically. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like, I also wanted to make sure we talked about that because I would assume that a lot of, let's say, aspiring graphic designers, they want to do the big flashy
of course.
work or thing. No?
Yes.
But the reality is, there's a lot of things also nga, maybe not as flashy, but probably just as fun and then just as stimulating.
Of course.
Yes. That, that a lot of people still work with. Like Mark was telling me a story before, like in Happy Garahe, they were doing, I forgot what he called it, but like basically, when a building is being built, they have those...
like mock-ups? Like say,
or just like posters on the walls.
Yes, the tarps.
Tarp.
Everyone goes through that.
Yeah, and then they were doing that. And I think of Happy Garahe. I automatically think of like there's a certain, but they also have a style.
Yes, very distinct.
Yeah, and then, but kind of obviously he was still doing...
Of course. to get to the high visibility vanity projects, you really have to do the grunt work. No one gets to level 100 without passing through level 1, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, for how I would put it is that you really have to go through the not so fancy design work in order to, one, work on your efficiency, work on your style, develop your network, and so on and so forth. So that by the time you do get those really amazing clients, you can deliver at your best.
Yeah. I want to get to also what you talked about, like with Create Cebu.
Mm-hmm.
No. Do you guys have any upcoming projects for Create Cebu?
Right now we're in a semi-hiatus because one of us is out of the country. I'm also kind of resting and everyone else is kind of busy. So the core members are a bit busy since it's not our full-time job. We're not a formal organization. Sometimes real life has to be prioritized.
Yeah, but there was a lot of learning also and insights, as you mentioned, from doing some of the Create Cebu stuff. Like you mentioned earlier, in the Tropical Futures Forum talk, like starting small is better than not starting at all.
Yes.
And then, so in fact, your first project was
really there's a chalk mural thing over like just a few meters from where we're recording, actually.
Yeah, over here in A Space in Crossroads.
Yeah, so where Holy Cow is now, that used to be boarded up. That was just a plain wall. Then we had people write on it, and that morphed into something we did for Gabi sa Kabilin, which became an interactive wall when the kids started coloring the actual tarp artwork. And that morphed into something bigger, and which became the murals we see around Crossroads.
Yeah, and so the murals around Crossroads.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna do you had 5 points in your
yes,
and
top? I'm afraid I'm not. I think I've already forgotten about them.
No, but the murals in Crossroads.
Yes.
It was very important for you guys to take care of the artists. So we're in Crossroads, and then if anybody who's been to Crossroads in the past year or
3 years, yeah.
2 or 3 years now. There are these beautiful
murals.
Like in all over.
Big scale, yes.
Yeah, I particularly like the one of, I'm not sure, is that Kidlat? Or
Kidlat, which one?
The blue one?
The blue
with
one?
the boy?
Yes. That's the builder by Kidlat.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one. The odds, which one's the one with the...
yeah.
I like that one
the
too.
The puso heart and puso rice.
Yeah.
And then we have Kidlat's Moby Dreams with the boy looking up at the mobile, but with the shapes of animals. There's also another one by Daot, which is a tribute to other street artists in Cebu. We have two by Lian Reboja.
Lian's
amazing, right?
It's huge.
Exactly. You really follow the path. And then we have a couple of sections by Monday Playgroup, which is Roniel Compra, Ivan. Sorry, I forgot your last name. Yes. And then Golda King.
Yeah, and then you were. It was very important for you guys to take care of the artists.
Yes.
You said not only to pay them, but make sure that they have safety harnesses.
Yes, exactly.
Scaffolding.
Yes.
And then, and then it was, in a way, before man good, especially when you think about art, a lot of people would be like, oh, bayran pa na. It was kanang more, di pa ka ana, you can have your work on
exposure.
Exposure.
Exposure. Exposure, yes.
And it was nice to see a totally different approach to it. Ba?
I see.
No?
Yes.
And then, so you mentioned, for example, that particular project. No? How did you guys get funding for that?
Yes. So, the champion for this project was Cecilia Martinez Miranda. She really went through all these. Oh, of course, we prepared a deck. We prepared our ideas, our proof of concepts, as much information as you can prepare before you start asking for money, because the more info you have, the more convincing your project is. Of course, that's a reality for any field of work, right? It was really that. We just
So who did you?
Yes, yes.
approach
That's
to?
the specific sponsors were Island Paints. I'm afraid the name of the contractor for the harnesses and scaffolding, it escapes me right now. There is also Cube Gallery, and who else? I think those were the main sponsors, because we have sponsors for the mural production themselves, but we also had sponsors for the launch, because we had a proper launch and event for all of the things. That was around 3 years ago, so I'm afraid I don't remember all the names of the sponsors.
Pero did you have a hand in the pitching?
What do you mean by pitching?
Kato, what you were mentioning, where you had to prepare all of these
The
information before
It was primarily Sealy who talked to all these people. What was great was that Sealy, since she has ties with Crossroads, talking to Cube Gallery was not difficult at all, because, you're just in the same neighborhood. What we had Cube Gallery do was curate the lineup, because you can just ask anyone to make murals, right? But we wanted it to be curated properly and by artists we think were up and coming. And as we can see, they've already broke.
They're actually still all doing really
good, right? So that's the point.
I think like 2 or 3 of them just had
their shows.
Solo shows this
Exactly. Exactly. So stuff like this can really help artists. I mean, not just by exposure, but by linking them with other networks and contacts. They can really, shall we say, blow up in that sense. So besides Cube Gallery curating the thing, I think that's it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was just curious about like the whole pitching process. That's something that's interesting in itself. Also, bang. How do you talk to these companies? How do you build these relationships? Because the one of the interesting things with you guys was that typically if you do an event, usually like these events, the first time it happens, probably don't get a sponsor.
Sure, yes.
Well,
that way. How did we manage to get a sponsorship at that point? Do you mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We were slowly building momentum up to Sevolution. That was the name of the mural project in Crossroads. So, since it's possible that the people we have asked for sponsorships before for previous projects didn't give us sponsorship then, but when you ask them again, maybe they're ready to sponsor you, and maybe they think it's a good fit for them.
Yeah, but you also had a project beforehand, diba? So like you had a project where you tried asking, and then
might not have gotten something.
Yeah, no one was able to do anything. But then after you show people that you're serious, that you can do it.
Yes. It was a lot of small talks, small collaborations that really convinced people that maybe we can do it. It's more of that. Not the bigger context, but more like a precursor to Sevolution was that for one of the Cebu business months, we actually, not we as Create Cebu, but some of the members of Create Cebu tried pitching to a big development to do big murals on the sides of buildings.
And there was one building in IT Park for the longest time. I was like, they should put up this huge mural.
I'm not mentioning names, of course. Yes. But unfortunately, that didn't push through because a lot of things weren't thought through. Like, how do you get your artist up there? Who's going to pay for the paint? Stuff like that. So when we started seeing the concerns of other stakeholders, it's when you realize, okay, we need to prepare in that sense so that we already know what to answer and what what information to give them in case they do ask you those sort of questions.
So that's interesting. So it didn't start here. You guys pitched it to other people pa gani?
Not as Create Cebu, but some of us.
Yeah.
We were hoping, one of us was hoping to put the big mural somewhere.
Yeah, like in Fort, diba? Like Fort Bonifacio. Sorry, like
yes.
in Manila.
No.
Ba? Like,
you can just put it anywhere. It's as if like they just sprout overnight. But in actuality, it's quite hard if you're not part of the development.
Oh, you can't.
Yes,
you
of course.
Well, good.
Yes.
Yeah, like I remember like a few years ago, there was this really big mural, really graffiti, somewhere in Banawa.
Oh, I haven't seen it probably.
It's huge. It was like 2-story.
Whoa.
What's the name? But I'm pretty sure it was illegal.
Yes.
But like obviously the artists were like, we can do this. So they, who knows how they did it?
Exactly, right? And for how long? How many days or nights?
Yeah. And but it would have been really cool. And then this was already, like, I remember thinking about this before all of these pictures in Fort Bonifacio came out. And but there's that one picture, like the astronaut.
Yes, they're so cool.
Yes, it would have been.
It would have been great if we could do that here, but it's really a matter of who is gonna champion it, who's gonna be, who's gonna lead it.
Do you feel like there's some pushback for projects like that in Cebu in general?
Not really. It's more of someone just has to take responsibility, either from an independent body or from someone from the development side. Because, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of developers who want art in their properties. Sometimes it's just that the art that does get made, it's inside the properties. They're not public. So we don't realize that there's actually art somewhere. As for public art, which is more along the lines of what we were doing with Evolution, because that was really a public art series, someone really just has to take initiative. It's not that people don't want it. We already see that people want it. And property developers really see that it brings them, it makes them Instagrammable. It brings value to their work, to their properties. So I think it's just a matter of someone stepping up.
Yeah, I will. I'd like to see more stuff like that. Like, right? I was really happy, when that whole Ubec crew movement came out and you started seeing like
so many cool stuff on the streets.
Yeah, and that, like, majority of it was illegal. Diba? And then, but a lot of them became,
look at them now,
full-fledged artists.
Exactly. And they're showing everywhere, like in the US, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, well, I wanted to also, one of the things, and this is where I struggle a lot with art in general, is that, so sometimes I'll talk to an artist, and then I will have the urge to try to describe their art, but I know nga murag. It's difficult. Like for me, I am not the best at that at all. I don't have the eye for that. But you seem to have this very specific. There's like a style. At least when I scroll through your Instagram.
So we're talking about my designs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So I don't know. Like, how do you
describe what I do?
Yeah, let's say you're in a party.
What do you do? What do you do? Can I just like put something out there?
Sure.
It used to be that someone, you meet someone new, you talk a bit, and they ask you, "What do you do?" I design. Then they ask you again, "Oh, what do you do for fun?" And I'm like, I design. So that's the problem there. Since what I do for fun and what I do for work are also the same thing, that tends to cause burnout. That's why I do my new media art. So that's just like an aside. So going back to how would I describe what I do? At the very core of it, it's type-centric. So it's really focused on the typography, only because at first I thought I was not good at anything else, but I also thought that being good with typography is not something anyone can just pick up. It's something you really develop and master over a course of, like say years maybe. So I went through phases actually. So I started with the Swiss style, the international typographic style. That's when you see like graphic designing stuff where it's just like Helvetica, and it's like that. That's how I started.
I don't understand. What do you mean by Swiss style?
That's the style of graphic design.
Oh, okay.
So people will have to Google that, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so really just all text posters, not much anything. So that's how I started. And from there, there was a time in 2010s when people started talking about ugly graphic design, which I don't think, I haven't been updated on graphic design discourse, so I don't know what it's really called. But since for the longest time, graphic design was beautiful and functional, so there was a pushback from that. People wanted to make something different. So people were making intentionally ugly things, which can be linked to, say, vaporwave, meme culture. So all the crazier stuff started to come out. So that I also started to absorb that because I also got sick of making pretty things. So it was a matter of exploring what was out, the styles that were out there, if I could make it my own, as well as reacting to how I was reacting to design work.
So you were really looking at a lot of work in general.
Before, looking at graphic design work was a bit hard before Google search, before Instagram.
So you're talking about way before.
Yes. So, my exposure to graphic design were just, the odds and end magazines you find in book sale. That was the most, right? I mean, then suddenly we had this thing called Found with multiple Fs. Found. That was like an image aggregate.
Really? So, it's a website?
Yes, it was a website maybe early 2000s. So that was one of the ways you could gather design resources. So this is really a matter of where you can find and how you can find design inspiration. And now since everyone's posting all their works, all styles seem to flourish because everything's doable now. Everyone can do whatever they want in any style and have people appreciate it. So I digress. What was the question?
Oh no, so
Yes.
do you find yourself looking at a lot of other people's work to figure out what to
I
do
want?
with your own?
Oh, that's so interesting. Specifically on looking at other people's work. That's always a challenge because you'll always feel like this person is so much better than me. You can't help it in whatever creative field you are in. When you look at other people's work, you'll always feel like you suck because there's always someone better than you. But that's the reality. Someone might always be better than you, but you'll always be better than someone else. What matters is you just focus on you. Don't focus on, comparing and everything. So, when I look at other people's stuff, it's more of inspiration. It's not that I wanna do that exactly. It's like I wanna try that out in how I interpret it.
You get like an element of that certain thing and then see if it works with what you're already doing.
Exactly. For example, a lot of there's a group of graphic designers that are going more lo-fi, so their works are starting to look like photocopied collages, and I've found that appealing. So I try to make my own versions of that. So it's more of you see a concept that's appealing, and I try to make it in my own way.
Yeah, graphic design is it's this huge.
Yes, it's a universe now because there's so many styles.
Well, again.
Yes.
And it's really interesting, at least for me, because I'm not trained at all.
No, nor am I.
Oh yeah, no,
yes.
But obviously you've self-trained.
Yes, self-trained.
No, but it's interesting for me to see because I remember like a couple of years ago, I don't know, like I used to just like, I think Pinterest, you just pin
anything.
this looks cool, like this logo, this.
Yes.
What they're doing here, and then it doesn't matter so much what they say, but it's just like, oh, this.
Yes, this appeals to me. I think this is pretty. Yes.
Well, again, I mean, I don't do that anymore, bro. It's so the world is so huge in that
Yes.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
pa.
Mm-hmm.
Nga, and I like what you said. Nga, it kind of doesn't matter. I don't know if you said this exactly, but whatever you do, there's always somebody who's gonna like it,
Yeah,
whatever
no,
style,
exactly. Someone's
whatever.
gonna appreciate it. Yes.
What do you do
Mm.
specifically
Mm.
to get other people outside of your network to find?
My work.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because that's a good question rather because I don't actively like say tag people, hey, look at my stuff. I don't do that. I don't comment. But I make it a point because since I'm already putting effort in uploading my work, I might as well optimize how I upload it. So that means you're gonna max out your hashtags. Yes. So the way at least I know the Instagram graphic design community.
So there's certain hashtags that
Yes,
people
well,
look at.
yes. So if you want to get the attention of a design reposter, because there are so many accounts that repost graphic design, just for inspiration, you hashtag them so they can look at your work. So that's how you get the attention of reposters and by exchange their followers. So that's how you expand. Other things, collaborations. I mean, I haven't been really doing a lot of collaborations, but I hear that's another way to go. If you see someone's work who you admire, you just message them. You want to do something for fun, then that's how you connect, and they post your stuff, and their followers might be into what you're doing, so they follow you as well.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because Murag, I want this, especially in the beginning when we were talking about it. It sounded like, and I would just post your work, and then
Right.
somebody
Wow,
finds
I
it.
said like, whoa, you're the luckiest person on earth.
But really, there is intent.
Yes,
There.
because there's effort. I mean, if we're gonna do something, might as well do it well. So another thing that gets you attention is make sure your feed is clean. It looks professional. Because I mean, you can tell if an account is a professional account versus a personal account. So if you really want to get jobs, just make sure it looks professional. I mean, it's clean. You don't have silly memes on there. Not to say that memes don't work on professional accounts. It's just, does it match your style? Does it go with the message you're trying to convey? And then yes.
Yeah, so I know, like for example, your account, you don't post like pictures of
myself.
yourself.
Never.
Yeah.
Only because I'm shy. Even on my Facebook, I don't post pictures of myself. But
Or like you don't post pictures. Like you post your work.
Yes. Because that's what I just want. It's just it's my living portfolio. Another on the topic of portfolio, something I'd want to throw in out there is that there's this view that the portfolio website is dead. People look to your Instagram or your Facebook or your social media account before they go to your actual website. So it's kind of important to also keep your social media alive because, for example, a person is primarily a user of Instagram. It will take them more effort to open a browser and go to your website versus just searching you on Instagram. So that's the switching cost of a native user of Instagram to move to a browser. So it's really helpful to be on a platform, social media platform, where your clients are on. For example, you're in fashion and your market is on Instagram. So it's important to keep your Instagram, very active.
But you still have a portfolio site.
Which I don't update.
Okay, you just keep it there.
Yeah, it's there. I want to update it, but it's just, it takes time to update. I mean, it's on Cargo Collective.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like I have to fix things versus you just upload things because you have to design it and it's such a bother versus Instagram, you just post it up there.
Well, Mike, we were talking for like an hour plus.
Yes.
Yes.
We're done. We're done.
Is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to talk about?
Oh my lord, I don't think so.
Okay, where can people find you online?
Okay. On Instagram, I'm on cmyka.type, TYPE, and I'm also on cmyka.game, Glitch. I go by CMYKA because that's my name with a C on it. CMYK is the caller system. That's why if you just put an A, it becomes my name. So, woo, clever. And then that's the only social media accounts that I am really active on. Facebook, I'm not active on it at all. So just find me on Instagram.
Okay, thank you for this delightful conversation.
Okay, I've seen Myka in many events in Cebu, but we've only been able to talk in the podcast. So the podcast continues to be a good excuse to connect with interesting people. Thanks again, Myka, for the interview. Thank you, Cube Gallery and A Space, for sponsoring the podcast. The music from this podcast is Piano March by Audionautics. If you want to support the podcast, consider becoming a patron on patreon.com/Zerothreetwo. Link in the show notes. It helps support the podcast if you like what we're doing. And then we sometimes post exclusive content there. And depending on what tier you choose, you can get free merchandise. Or if you still want to support the podcast, simply share it online. I can hear my firstborn crying. I think he woke up from a nap. I'm going to end the podcast right now. Do you want to hear him cry? Let's hear him cry. Let's hear him cry. Yeah. Okay. Mano! Yeah, bud, what's up? What's wrong? You want to say something to the microphone so you can hear it later? Alright, that ends the podcast. Bye!